Hi, my name is Bo Backerman. I'm with Bridgeforce, a management consultancy. I've been with the company for roughly 10 years and serve as a director and have worked with both banks and credit unions alike. Clearly, bank customers are digitally savvy, and we know that they have increasingly online presences and like to self-serve. The starting block philosophical underpinning of going digital is that it has become a member expectation. And that expectation, I think we can all agree, has accelerated due to the pandemic. So, from a credit union perspective, sort of what are some of the positives and negatives for having to cater to a digital audience? One of the revenue highlights that I'd like to make is that balanced and appropriate customer marketing during online sessions and even outside of them with, for example, a member who grants permissions and push notifications can lead to the additional sale of products and services, cross-sell, upsell, and drive top-line revenue. From an expense highlight perspective, there are numerous studies that indicate that self-service capabilities that are easy to find and use, when used by members and customers, result in higher member satisfaction scores than through call interactions. There are several psychological and practical drivers behind this. One psychological driver, for example, is the embarrassment of interacting with, say, collection and recovery agents or talking about financial difficulties. If the interaction is automated or virtual through chat, for example, many members are likely to feel much more comfortable. Practical drivers include not having to navigate through call menus, experiencing hold times, or having to go through necessary authorization processes that can be easier to conduct online. From a control perspective, I'd like to highlight that online account opening, origination, general servicing, collections and recovery all benefit from a more highly controlled disclosure, documentation capture, and documentation provision perspective, as well as systems-driven workflows than when you're reliant on non-digital channels. This applies to numerous control need categories, including business operations, compliance, operational risk, and financial control. I also said that I would talk a little bit about sort of the negatives or the concerns. And while I wouldn't characterize what I'm about to discuss as negatives per se, they are certainly food for thought about considerations in the process of going digital. So first and foremost, the credit union needs to quote unquote, get it right, from the user experience to actual back office automation. Difficult to find and navigate activities frustrates members. When I mention actual back office automation, when I'm interacting with executives, I typically ask them to think about how many of their online activities or processes are operating in essence as a metaphorical fax machine, as opposed to integrated data, information, and transaction processing. The second point that I'd like to make is that there will always be members who do indeed want a relationship, but not necessarily a traditional relationship, such as visiting the branch or voice to voice. Credit unions as a whole are absolutely wonderful at putting their members at the center of everything they do and putting their members first. But establishing a digital relationship is somewhat new terrain. And what that means will vary by member and customer segments. My wife and I have two teenagers, each of whom has established very real digital relationships, mostly through social media in our daughter's case, and mostly through online gaming when it comes to our son. In both cases, however, the relationship need varies, but also in both cases, many of those relationships will always be virtual. they'll never meet. Think about that from the context of a digital relationship with your members and how that translates. And it's not simply for the younger generations, it applies really across the board. So the next topic that I wanted to address is how a credit union's use of digital communications can benefit customers, particularly in times of financial distress. The credit union can model what financial stress looks like and thereby engage with members who may not have informed us about their financial stress. And I know it sounds quite simple, is be active. Communicate with members experiencing financial distress as permitted with permissions and allowed notifications by providing educational materials, providing members options either through the credit union or other sources such as local and government assistance programs, and also providing collections and recovery communications, including specific offers or ways to drive promises to pay that do not require face-to-face interaction or voice-to-voice interaction.